Relationship management is the key to unlocking your destiny. During the series entitled After I Did, Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. explores the connection between the quality of our life experiences and our relationships with others.
Back to another Wednesday, Relationship Wednesday. Again, I'm recording this on Sunday after service. So, of course, if you see the same outfit that I have on that you saw for Sunday, that's why. So I just want to make that clear. Because again, we pre-record these to, get them out. So the last two sessions we had, Michelle and I answer some questions or what have you, and that's good. But I wanted to come back and take some time out because I begin to see, I guess, a theme through the questions that were answered, and just want to try to give some little bit of commentary on the questions that were asked. And I guess I want to come off like there's no bad question. I just want to just maybe try to. Sometimes when people are asking questions, you're just trying to get a picture of what people are really asking. So you're just trying to serve better, to try to come up with different ways to make hopefully that I'm tackling, connecting with where the questions are coming from, so that way we can better serve your answers and the questions that you have, and all those type of things. So again, Relationship Wednesday after I did, and so I want to just recap that a little bit and going into it. And so again, as I look at the landscape of out there, because every relationship is in everything. We watch movies for relationships. Even in a movie, if you have a superhero, they're connecting with somebody, relationship. If we watch TV shows, there's always a relationship there. So we understand relationships are part of life and connected to everything. And again, that's why I always say that relationships is a high contact sport, meaning that it's very hard on the emotions, but if you have the right tools, we can manage them and navigate through them. To me, like playing football, right? Football is a high contact sport, but you got to have the pads on, the helmets, certain things. Why? So I can handle the impact that comes with it. Even with those guys, they still get hurt, they still get injured, but they're still able to manage better because they have protective gear on to help manage the intensity of the sport. Same thing with relationships. Relationships are very rewarding. And, it's like high risk, high reward type thing. The more risk you put in, the greater the reward. So same thing with relationships, where because the reward is so great for having good relationships, the risk and the hurt can go that much harder on the other side. And so we have to remember that. Why? So that way we can learn from it and don't shut down in future relationships, because the previous ones were tough, not understanding that it came with the game. So even though I'm kind of repeating myself, but I just think that a lot of times we have to know that. And so I just want to give you a couple of things. Next thing I want to talk about, just a reminder, is that so the next two sessions we will have Michelle and I. She's going to come back and we're going to finish answering the questions that were sent in thus far, and then maybe have some commentary and move forward with that. Also, just want to give people a heads up on. And I'm sharing these things ahead of time because what happens is I get to get into the content and then I forget to share these things at the end. So I'm just, getting it out the way now. And so also another thing that in dealing with relationships, we're going to have to deal with and go through and talk about the mentality that is developed through the father wound. And what I mean by the father wound is that when we don't see the man of God the way God designed it, and we grew up in a house with a father that didn't know who they were in Christ. So then now the sons and the daughters, we grow up with certain philosophies, and it's just nothing more than us adjusting to the father not being there, or us feeling like we have to take care of ourselves. Because again, by self-preservation, you have to do it. It's like you're in that, but and as kids, we don't know how to translate that. And then and the reason why I say this, because if we never deal and properly talk through how to process our parents, a lot of times we have a hard time processing our relationships. So let me give you this here in Ephesians. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I wasn't planning on going here. It says Ephesians 6:1. Chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. And your fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and ammunition of the Lord. So you notice it never said mothers, it said fathers. And so, and children are made up of what? Sons and daughters. So basically saying that if the father doesn't know how to be a covering, then the children a lot of times can process things
differently, but it says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. And then so we know that there's two dynamics, right? Where our parents are in one season, they manage us as children, but father and mother, in other words, these are people who we honor because they gave us life and brought us into this world, but we don't listen to them anymore. We may have different opinions now. We may see different things, but we have to now have a way where we can properly process the good and the bad. In other words, the stuff that happened when they were parents, we have to be able to process that and basically say that I got to make sure that I understand certain things, because sometimes, when we're growing up, all we see is how we were treated. We don't always understand. Sometimes that came from how they were treated, and they just didn't understand they didn't know how to treat us properly. So now the cycle continues, and then now it's governing my relationships. It's governing how I'm treating my boss at work, or the friends and relationships I'm having. And I'm saying that I'm coming to find that if we never deal with the philosophies that were created from our relationship with our parents, good or bad, sometimes it will govern the way we look at relationships, the way we handle and navigate our relationships, because a lot of times it starts there, and then our philosophies goes out and makes our decisions on who we choose to connect with, on what level, why we don't connect, all those type of things. So we're going to be, diving into that pretty soon and talking about those things. And then, of course, we're going to talk about relationships from all different, angles and levels, just to try to give people tools and perspectives on how to manage and navigate. And that's why we talk about after I did. Okay, now that I'm in relationships, maybe from not understanding who I am, not understanding my purpose, not understanding those things, what do I do now? Like, that's what because again, a lot of times it's not people who are just getting started. For people who are just getting started, you can learn from the people and from the choices they made and how did they readjust. So we're working with two people, but my main goal is, as we help people who are navigating from decisions that were already made, the people who are just getting started in life, you can listen to them and get perspective on maybe some things that you may not have known that you needed to know ahead of time. So by helping the people who after they did, hopefully the people before they did can get some wisdom from those people, because at the same time, sometimes you have good people who just make bad choices, not because they wanted to make bad choices. Nobody really wants to make bad choices. It's just that we just work with the knowledge that we had at the time. And then sometimes what happens is, after I get the knowledge, what do I do with that? Because, when we're younger, we met, like, for example, one of the things you want to understand is that when you're making decisions, you want to be clear on who you are and clear on your purpose. Why? Because that should drive your decision making on who should enter your life and how far they should go into your life. Because vision drives everything. So if you have no vision for or picture of who you are and no vision for your life, then how do I know who goes, for example, like a football team? Because you have different types. Are you going to be a running team or are you going to be a passing team? And that decides what type of quarterback you're going to get, what type of running back you're going to get, all those type of things. So, I got like my man here, he a Raven fan, and they brought in Derrick Henry, and they had to figure out how to work it out, but they're not like a real passing team. They're a running team. They are ground and pound runners, but that's the type of team they want to be. So they brought in Derrick Henry to fit their scheme. But if they had no vision, then they have no reason to bring him in. But if they're going to be a passing team and they wanted Lamar to pretty much just stand in the pocket and pass, they're going to bring in receivers. Like, in other words, if their vision was different for the offense, then they would have brought in players that supported the vision. So likewise, when you know your vision for your life, then you know who to invite into your life and how far they should go in. But if you don't have a vision for your life, a lot of times we're inviting people in out of no vision. And then therefore, we get stuck and we get trapped. And we wonder why things are not working. And a lot of times we think that people are bad, but the problem wasn't the people were bad. It's just that you made choices off of you not knowing your vision, not being clear on what you wanted and who you are and what you were looking for in life. So if you don't know who you are and you don't know your purpose and what it's all about, how do you know who to hire? In other words, you have to remember, relationships, I'm going to say everything's a business. I'm just using it as a metaphor, that you have to realize as a CEO of a company that you have to hire around your strengths and your weaknesses, so that way, because that's what a team is. A team is, I know where I'm weak at and I know where I'm strong at, and I got to be able to hire around my strengths and weaknesses so I can be effective as a team. And when you know that, then now I know who to hire, who I shouldn't hire. So if I know what I'm strong at, I don't need to hire somebody who, for example, as a church, I'm the pastor, I'm the preacher of the church, then I don't got to go out and hire other preachers. What I need to do is I need to hire administrators, people, musicians. I got to go out and hire, teachers, different other type of children's teachers work. So I'm saying that now, once I know who I am, what I'm built to do now, and what I'm called to do, then I got to go out and know who I need to find around the vision. But if you're not clear, how do you even know who to hire? And I think a lot of times that's what happens to people in life. And as I'm reading through the questions, and I guess I can feel that heartbeat where it's still, where you're still, even though you're asking a question on how I make these things fit. And I just want to give a commentary just to basically say, you have to really begin to take some time to discover what's in you, because really it's hard to, yes, I'm going to answer your questions and stuff and do the best I can, but I'm going to tell you that you'll even have this intuitive wisdom, even a greater wisdom on how to figure out how to navigate your relationships the clearer you are on who you are and your purpose and your vision. Because even if I answer your questions and you're not still clear on who you are and how you are and your purpose, it would still be ambiguous and it still would be unclear, because you're still not really sure on why you're here, what you're wired to do, all those things. So now this person could be a good fit. This person may not be a good fit. So now I'm trying to figure out how to navigate me not being clear. And I'm saying that you first have to be clear on who you are. For example, if you a bird, then there's certain things you do when you're a bird. I mean, I know we're not animals, but just using an illustration. And so if you're an eagle, eagles have certain assignments to the ecosystem of nature. If you're a whale, whales have certain, assignments to the ecosystem. But what you think if you're a whale, like, I want to be a bird, I want to fly, I want to go hang out, So that's why I use the whole thing with the eagle and the chicken illustration, meaning that even in the bird family, chickens have their purpose, eagles have their purpose. And they, in other words, and they connect around how they're built. Like buzzards have their purpose. So you have buzzards where, when I see where we live, there's a lot of animals run out in the street and they have roadkill. We're like, okay, well, the buzzards got some good food today. You know what I'm saying? But eagles don't eat that. Eagles don't eat that because their purpose is different. And I'm saying that, but if a buzzard thinks he's an eagle, then he can't fulfill his purpose. And you know what I'm saying? If an eagle thinks it's a buzzard, then he can't fulfill his purpose. And now you're trying to work relationships and connect with people and doing things because I'm not clear that I'm an eagle. So once I know I'm an eagle, okay, what am I designed? How am I wired? How am I built? What am I designed to do? So in other words, and so therefore, that's why I wanted to read the scripture to you, where in Jeremiah 1, in Jeremiah 1. And so one thing I want to say to you is this: if you want to have great relationships, you have to be strong enough to be you. I think the enemy loves to find ways to make us be something that we're not to be accepted. And, when we grew up in peer pressure and we've never, really maybe had the affirmations of our parents or whatever, just maybe the right way. And so, because, as peers, we like to be accepted. We want to, we're still looking for that validation, even amongst our peers. So, we'll come up. And so now what happens is, if we don't watch it and we don't get the proper validation, what we'll do, we'll grow up being something that somebody else wanted us to be versus who God created me to be. And then now I grew up believing in my own identity that I created versus finding my real identity. And then now I built my life around my identity. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Me, when I left for my prodigal son experience and I went to Atlanta, my friends, they gave me the nickname Waniac. And then I remember and God showed me, he said, like Saul of Tarsus and Apostle Paul, where Waniac had certain friends. See, Waniac had weed smokers for friends. Waniac did certain things and hung out and operated in certain things because that's what Waniac did. But once I came to Christ and I found out that God created Wayne Powell, then I got new friends. I got, new connections. I was in new circles. Why? Because Wayne Powell now had a whole new group of friends that Waniac didn't have. So therefore, when they would leave, you was friends with Waniac. But Waniac was an identity that was created for me being something who the world wanted me to be accepted. But once and I'm going to tell you, I guess, where it came from, and I'm going to tell you what happened for me. One of the things I remember when I was coming up to school back in the day, when people found out I was a PK, it was almost like they treated me like I had leprosy. It was almost like, oh, your dad's a pastor, and then they would go to their cliques and they would leave me by myself because they were like, I can't hang out with you. You with the whole. So therefore, what I said was, okay, I'm gonna create Waniac to be accepted. So I'm gonna create this guy in order to fit in because the feeling of feeling rejected didn't feel good. And so now I'm growing up with this whole new identity to be accepted. So once I got a Waniac got accepted, you know what I mean? And that whole thing. So it had a certain world it lived in, certain friends, certain connections, and certain type of people I was dating. Everything was connected around that person. But once Jesus revealed the real me, then I began to find new friends, new people, new connections. So for example, Michelle, my wife, she would have never married Waniac. Waniac was not on the books for Waniac, but she married Wayne, the one who was discovering the Christ in him. Are you follow what I'm saying? So you have to realize that's what happened because Michelle will tell you, she said that when I was coming up, because I was operating in Waniac, but she said when I started preaching and stuff, she said, this may be something. Who was that guy? Who was that something there? But again, that was Wayne Powell coming out. So in other words, because the real me, so in other words, the connections change. And a lot of times what's happening is we're making decisions, we're getting into relationships around not knowing who we are. And so I want to say this to you. So it says in Jeremiah 1, it says, then the word Lord came to me and said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. So meaning, so there is a real you that there is a person that God created. He says, I sanctified you, set you apart. In other words, I set you apart, meaning that don't let people. That's why you gotta be strong enough to be you. Don't ever feel like you have to mold yourself to be. And again, we're not talking about being mean and being upset and having a snubby attitude. That's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is that if there's certain things that make you tick and make you go, don't be afraid of it. Don't always put that aside in the name of making other people happy. That's what I'm saying. Be strong enough to be you. Because that's where you're going, when you decide to be you, then you begin to start finding who fits within. Because in other words, let me say, then it says, I ordained you a prophet to the nations. And then it says, okay, so it says, I formed you. God gave you an identity. I sanctified you. I set you apart. And then I ordained you. In other words, I equipped you, which means that once you decide to be you, God said, I got a new set of friends and people and relationships and everything that's going to connect to that. And you even find out how to even navigate. Because sometimes as you work on discovering you, you'll even know how to navigate these difficulties of do we really fit or do we don't fit? And how do I even navigate this? But this coming and discovering you will help you begin to understand that reality. That's what I'm saying. So it says, and so now I say it to you like this. It's how do you know? God gives us clues on how to discover us. So in other words, if there are certain things you instinctively like, meaning that what bothers you, meaning that for me, when people don't know who they are in Christ, it bothers me. Like when people don't, when I see the enemy having authority over people, when you have it like that, bothers me. In other words, what makes you sad? When it makes me sad when I was sad when I saw so many people being taken by the enemy because we don't know who we are. Like I remember at the crusade, and it was instinctive. Like it bothered me. Like for example, there are certain things. If you see sick people bother you, that's something that God put you here to heal. If whatever you're passionate about, like if you love certain things and certain things that you may love, like for example, if you love working out or you love paintings or tree, like you got to know what those things are. Like God put those creativities in you. All of us were born to create. What way do you create? Some people create through painting. Some people create through exercise, bodybuilding. Some people create through what's the word? I don't know. It's so many different things like building blocks or building houses or whatever, or design, like going into a room and designing it. Like when you go into a space, what do you naturally see? In other words, God's wired, like he gives you the clues, like things that you see that excites you and things that bother you. You have to take note of those. And then also Look at your story. Just sometimes God will reveal your purpose through your story, meaning that your misery can become your ministry. People who were sick a lot of times end up having a strong healing ministry. People wwho were poor end up having a ministry helping other people come out of, poverty. People who felt like they were never good enough, they created a ministry of helping other people feel good enough. Like sometimes those things help you define what those things are. Because why? Because at the end of the day, as long as it's just about being married and I'm going to live my best life and all that stuff is good. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that fades away. But your purpose lives forever. So the thing that you've been put here to do, usually your marriage, your friends, all those things supposed to complement that. That's where you get your full fulfillment. A lot of times when our vision is just about, I just want to be happily married. See, a lot of times you don't even know who you are because your marriage is supposed to be connected to your purpose and your destiny. And where now it's more about this is somebody I'm going to share my life with. Yes, you love each other, but we're sharing our life in the grand scheme of why God put us here to accomplish our goal. And if I feel like that my life isn't moving in the right direction, I'm saying is you got to check out, have you been strong enough to be you? Or have you grown up so long being something everybody else wanted you to be to the point where you don't even know who you are anymore? And I'm saying these are the ways you can discover who God made you to be and put those things in you, in those desires. Like me, I have how can I say, I hate it. It's like a godly hate. I don't hate people, but I hate it when people are taught wrong. Why do I hate that? Because God called me to be a teacher. So because I'm called to be a teacher, that's the backhanded way of feeling that way because I'm a teacher. And so in other words, sometimes the thing that, you hate to see in other people, a lot of times God may have equipped you and put that in you to say, I called you. That's what God said. I called you to be a prophet to the nation, meaning that there were certain things in Jeremiah he put in there that was going to bother him because he was assigned to heal it. And that's where our true fulfillment comes from, doing the will of the Father, the will of God, why we put here, because we know that we're here for a certain season, whether you know it or not. Our body's on a ticking time. In other words, and I say we plan on dying tomorrow, but at the same time, if my body's on the timer, that means we're here to accomplish something for a season, and then we go back, and that's where we get our true fulfillment. All right. So I just wanted to just throw that out there to you and just put that in, and just give you some extra thoughts on how to maybe better navigate some of these questions we're going to continue to answer. But I just wanted to take a brief, intermission from the Q&A and come back and hear this and just, drop that nugget to you. And I just want to say, God bless you. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you here next Wednesday.
Thank you for joining Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. for this edition of Relationship Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed this episode of After I Did. Let's keep the conversation going by leaving your questions and comments in the chat. We also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you are reminded to join us next Wednesday as Pastor Wayne continues this discussion of After I Did.